Here it is, the one you've all been waiting for. It's time to go through my worst movies of 2025. As always, I don't make a habit of watching bad movies, so I didn't see War of the Worlds, the Minecraft movie, Freakier Friday, The Strangers Chapter 2, Him, Tron Ares, and many others. That being said, I still managed to catch a ton of bad movies this year. So many in fact that I actually have 10 of them instead of the usual 5. In fact, I actually had a couple more, but we'll stick to 10. So, without any further ado, let's get this top 10 list started. Number 10. Good Boy. In order to explain why I didn't like this movie, I'm gonna have to give a slight spoiler warning for the film's ending. But if you know anything about horror movies, it was either gonna be a happy ending or the other ending. Now, this movie is very ambitious because it is told from the perspective of a dog. The dog is the main character, and you follow it as it witnesses supernatural occurrences happening to its owner. And the movie started out pretty slow, but once it got going, it really got going. And I thought the movie itself was pretty good. That is until we got to the ending. And yes, the movie has a twist horror movie ending. And followers of my channel know how I feel about those. This is my least favorite movie trope. And for me, they can be enough to take an excellent movie and turn it into a terrible movie, all within the last few seconds. And this movie is sadly one of them. People always talk about how bad overly happy Hollywood endings are because they end by wrapping everything up with a bow. But I think that twist horror movie endings are just as bad as the overly happy endings, because they are just the opposite side of the extreme. Except, if I had to choose, I would rather have the overly happy ending, because at least with the happy ending, you feel like you've worked towards something, that the characters were able to succeed at something that they've spent the entire movie's runtime to accomplish, but just killing them off in a forced last-second twist makes the whole journey feel like it was all for nothing. There are a couple of examples of this horror trope working, but on the whole, I have never liked it. But this movie broke me. I am totally done and have no leniency towards this trope anymore. Unless you can intelligently justify the twist horror movie ending, I don't want to see it anymore. I will take the happy Hollywood ending any day over a lazy last-minute twist ending that makes the whole film feel like a journey that led to nothing. If you're going to nonsensically kill the character off in the end, then you might as well have killed them off at the beginning and saved us all some time. This movie could actually have been in my top 10 best movies of 2025, but now, because of its generic ending, it's in the top 10 worst. Number 9. Black Phone 2. Black Phone 2 is an inferior sequel in every way. It's also incredibly unoriginal. The grabber was killed in the last movie, and now he haunts people in their dreams. Yep, this is a shameless ripoff of Freddy Krueger. Now, taking inspiration from other properties is fine, so long as you add your own unique twist to it. But to just copy and paste an iconic idea into your movie verbatim, that's just lazy. Now, the movie has some creative direction, and our two leads, played by Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw, are the standouts. But the script is what's really lacking here. This just proves that reviews from early reactors have no credibility. This is not one of the best horror movie sequels ever made. It's a mediocre at best sequel, and it's one of the most unoriginal sequels at that. But it did something different than the first movie. Yeah, it did something different, but it cheated on the assignment by copying someone else's work rather than focusing on its own. And on this particular channel, Teacher is not fooled. The first movie was much more original, far more interesting, and it took a real subject matter of kidnapped children and made a good movie around it. The second film felt like the director wanted to direct a Nightmare on Elm Street film, but the studio said no, so he made his own in a forced sequel. And that's exactly how I would classify this movie. It felt forced. It answered a couple of questions from the first film, one big one in particular, but it was not enough to turn this movie around. And by the time we reach the climax, it turns out that the grabber is just an invisible ghost. He comes after Gwen in her dreams, but by the end of the film, you find out that he can actually attack people even when they're awake. So then, what was the point of attacking her in her dreams this whole time? It turns out, you can see him in your dreams, but you just can't see him in real life. And that makes even less sense. The whole film treats him like Freddy Krueger, but then right at the end, they just turn him into an invisible slasher. This movie is just a mess to the highest order, and unforgivably, no one dies in this film. Yeah, you heard me, no one dies in an R-rated and 18-rated slasher. And it's not like we had a shortage of characters either. On the contrary, we had tons of underdeveloped, boring, and generic side characters who were the perfect meat for the grinder. The only deaths we see are visions of a few of the grabber's past kills, and that's it. No kills for the present. This movie was shockingly weak. Our three actors delivered great performances, there was some good tension and direction in a handful of scenes, but everything else, what a waste. Number 8. Captain America: Brave New World. Fantastic Four and Thunderbolts had some good things about them and were okay movies, but Brave New World has absolutely nothing going for it. It is a useless entry in the MCU. It had no connection to the cliffhanger ending in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series, it threw a Red Hulk in here for no reason other than to look good on the posters, and confusingly, the movie acted more like an Incredible Hulk sequel rather than a Captain America sequel. And even if it was a Hulk sequel, it would have sucked as well. This film should have showcased Sam Wilson's first true tenure as Captain America, and both this and the lackluster Falcon and Winter Soldier show are the reason why Sam Wilson failed his run as Captain America. That's why they are bringing Steve Rogers back, because Marvel know they have failed. This movie feels like it did absolutely nothing to justify why Marvel made Sam Wilson Captain America in the first place. They clearly didn't have an inspired idea to give him the mantle, and it made this decision feel like a mistake. And as a result, this great scene in Avengers Endgame has been tainted now. As I've always said, a sequel can make the previous movie better or worse. And these misguided projects for Sam Wilson have certainly made this scene worse. This just proves that Bucky should have been Captain America. We know just a tiny bit of his backstory, but they could have shown us so much more. Just like Steve Rogers, his life was ripped away from him. He has a past full of guilt, and he woke up in a future that he is a stranger to. And we saw Steve Rogers navigate that, but we didn't see Bucky navigate it. And to give him the Captain America mantle and try to navigate that would have been much more interesting than whatever Sam Wilson did. He would have made for a much more interesting and emotionally scarred Captain America. Meanwhile, what backstory does Sam Wilson have going for him? He's a blank slate in comparison, and we still don't know anything about him. That is another reason this movie takes a spot on the worst of list. It proved that Marvel had no plan when they made him Captain America, and it shows in this entire movie from start to finish. And there is a ton of other terrible stuff this movie does as well. I haven't even gotten into the terrible 17-year payoff with shitty Brainiac here, and his terrible credit scene, which is just as laughable and ridiculous as the Carnage credit scene in Venom. For all these reasons and more, Captain America Brave New World is easily the worst superhero movie of 2025. Number 7. Jurassic World Rebirth. I didn't think it was possible to make a worse Jurassic Park movie than Dominion, and it still isn't. I still think that Dominion is worse, but Rebirth got very close. Crap characters making dumb decisions, boring set pieces, underwhelming dinosaur sequences, even the T-Rex sequence was underwhelming. They have a new dinosaur and it was barely used and you could hardly see it. Gareth Edwards just can't help himself with that, can he? And for a PG-13 movie, this felt like the most kid-friendly Jurassic Park movie ever. Scarlett Johansson was completely miscast and brings absolutely nothing to the film. She is the most forgettable lead character of all the Jurassic Park movies, and even other actors that are usually great, such as Mahershala Ali, left such little impact. And he's the best character in the movie. Even the dinosaur sequences are so small scale when compared to the previous films. This movie was marketed as going back to the more horror roots of the original movie, and it just didn't. Like I said, it was the most family-friendly of all the films. In fact, it's pretty laughable that this got a 12 in the UK, and it has no business being a PG-13. This is the first Jurassic Park film that made me say, I am done with Jurassic Park. When I finished watching it, I immediately gave it a 3 out of 10. Just let the dinosaurs be extinct already. Number 6. What? Get out of here. Number 6. The Monkey. This movie had such a good idea and so much potential, but it just ended up doing something stupid with it instead. This movie has a serious case of identity crisis. It just couldn't pick a tone. It wanted to be funny, but it also wanted to be serious. But it also wanted to be a dark comedy, whilst also being a serious drama about two grieving brothers. The horror is weak, the performances are stilted, they break the rules of the monkey in the very first scene, and I just wanted the film to be over. I have a review coming where I will delve into why it was so bad, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, it's one of the dullest and most tonally confused movies I had seen all year, and it definitely deserves a spot on this list. Number 5. The Woman in the Yard. This was just an all-round terrible horror movie. There were some interesting ideas in this movie. The idea that the woman gets closer and closer as the day ends and keeps saying, "Today's the day," is genuinely creepy, but as soon as the characters walk up and talk to her and we see her face, that creepiness is completely lost, and her supernatural powers, being that she uses shadows to attack people, was so lame. And the ending to this movie was complete nonsense. It's like it wanted to be profound and deep, but really, it just ended up being nonsensical and confused. The movie just makes no sense, and the ending doesn't track with what we saw in the rest of the film. This was just an awful horror movie. It was terribly received by both audiences and critics, and I can completely understand why. And it has earned a place on this list. Number 4. Snow White. How could this not have been on this list? Talk about biting the hand that feeds you. I have never seen a movie that was so disgusted with its own source material. The only thing that could have topped this was this, but thankfully it got cancelled. The original Snow White is an absolute triumph of animated storytelling. It was the first of its kind, and is solely responsible for what Disney is today. It's what gave birth to this studio. This movie was a betrayal to everything the studio was built on. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was incredibly challenging for Walt Disney and his team to pull off, and it's because of that film we are even getting animated movies to this day, and how Disney is even able to make a Zootopia 2 to begin with. And for Disney to treat that gem of their history with such contempt and such disgust is absolutely sickening. Everything they did to the dwarves, from replacing them with these hippies to then bringing in these CGI monstrosities, was unforgivable and will go down in history. Gal Greenstein Godot has further proven that she can't act for shit. She can't sing for shit either. And the movie was just a mess and a complete butchering of the original. The only things that I found to be decent was Rachel Zegler's performance as Snow White and the Whistle While You Work song. Other than that, this movie was just bad. Now, I'll admit, I didn't get that mad when I saw the movie. Honestly, I think we've seen worse Disney remakes, but this film has long left a terrible taste in our mouths months after its release, and will definitely be a stain on Disney's dwindling reputation, and it deserves a place on this list. Number 3. The Electric State. I did a detailed review and breakdown as to why this movie sucks the big one, so check that out if you want to know more. Everything this movie sets out to do, it failed. There is not 1 ounce of competence in this film. The story makes no sense, the pacing is terrible, the character development feels unnatural, the action is lame, and the movie does not look like it cost $320 million. What is it with Hollywood and the movie industry spending so much money and none of it showing in the final product? This movie is also an insult to the source material, and it really put doubt in everyone's minds of the Russo brothers' storytelling capabilities, because they went full-on corporate with their decisions here in ruining some genuinely inspired source material. This makes their ideas for a live-action tick-tocking Hercules sound even worse than it already did. And no, I am not making that up. If these are the movies they have to show for post-Marvel, then maybe they should just stick to making Marvel movies for the rest of their lives, because this is complete and utter shit. And it pains me to think that the directors that made the best MCU movies could come out with garbage like this. This comes across as people who have never directed a movie in their lives before being given a blank check and told to make a movie. This doesn't even showcase any of their talents from their previous Marvel movies. This movie, more than their others, has tainted their names post-Endgame, and it easily takes a very high spot on this list. Number 2. I Know What You Did Last Summer. We have another Scream 5, guys. In fact, this movie might actually be more insulting. I Know What You Did Last Summer is a slasher movie from the 90s where some teenagers cause an accident due to their own stupidity. For a while, they get away with it until they start to get mysterious messages from someone who, wait for it, knows what they did last summer, and one by one he starts killing the guilty teens off. Now that's a very simple concept, and this movie screws that up right at the start. The way it handles this accident shows that the teenagers were dumb, but it was not really their fault. The driver was just driving really fast on a tight road with all these bends, and if he was driving as he should have been, then he would have seen the idiot on the road and wouldn't have crashed. So all they had to do was call the cops, report the accident, tell them what happened, and leave. But they start acting like, oh no, I just got my life back together, I can't go to jail, I'm gonna be done for manslaughter, we need to go now. So the movie screws up this very simple concept, and because they didn't set this up right, the rest of the movie falls apart before it even gets started. And then the killer shows up, and rather than just killing the teenagers involved in the incident, he starts murdering other people who had nothing to do with it. So it even screws the slasher part up. Top that off with forgettable characters, stupid motivations, weak scares, lame death scenes, and a predictable killer, and then, just like Scream 5, the movie completely butchers and insults the legacy male character from the original movie. Spoilers here, but it's best you hear it from me rather than from the movie. Now, I don't hold the original I Know What You Did Last Summer to high esteem, but I know there are people out there who do, and they took a character from the original movie and character assassinated him. And then they have the nerve to do a feminist line at the end of the film which didn't connect to anything.
It's pretty crazy that all of this could have probably been avoided if men just went to therapy. You know.
What? Not only are they mocking a character that people liked from the original film, but you can't help but notice their hypocrisy, when really, none of this would have happened if these idiots just called the police at the beginning of the film.
Aren't we going to the police station? Danica?
It's really important we don't tell anybody what happened tonight.
But no, men not getting therapy, that's what caused all of this. And it's so bizarre how proud the movie is of this random line. This is an all-round terrible movie.
Yeah, this whole experience has been 0 out of 10. Like, no stars. None at all.
It's a slap in the face to fans of the franchise, it was an insulting bore to non-fans of the franchise, and it was so close to being the #1 worst movie of 2025. But something else surpassed it. There was one movie that was not only an insult to the original, but also caused damage going forward.
And now it's time to find out what it is!
And the worst movie of 2025 is Lilo and Stitch. As far as Disney remakes go, this is one of the worst, and that's saying something. Just like Moana 2, the Lilo and Stitch remake was intended to be a straight-to-Disney Plus movie, but then they decided to send it to theaters instead so they could make some easy money out of it. But unlike Moana 2, where they put some money into it to make it at least look cinema-worthy, Disney did no such thing with Lilo and Stitch. It looks and is edited like a low-budget, straight-to-streaming movie. Jumba and Pleakley were so annoying, you hardly see them in their alien forms because remember, it was supposed to be a cheap streaming movie. Pleakley acts like such a dumbass throughout the entire thing, Jumba is turned into a villain and takes the place of Captain Guntu, and even Stitch felt like a shell of the lonely and sympathetic character he was in the animated film. And that's because they keep all of his instigating scenes in the movie, they even create new ones, but they cut out all the emotional scenes. The heartwarming scenes of him relating to the ugly duckling, him feeling alone and wanting a family to take him home, him having the harsh reality of what he is conveyed to him by Jumba.
All gone.
Lilo was okay, but still not right. And her sister, everything they did with Nani runs completely counter to what she is in the animated film. And the ending they gave her just took a shit all over Ohana. And the way it recreates and edits scenes that were perfectly paced in the original movie, it rushes through them so quickly and even skips them as well. Such as Stitch's escape from the ship. They edit them all down, and the final scene is a completely messed up and butchered version.
Very clever trick. Funny. I got to stare at my own derriere. I've always wanted to do that.
Not only is this a terrible movie, not only is it an absolute butchering and insult to the beloved original film, but there are negative ripple effects this movie has caused. After the Snow White disaster and the negative reception around the live-action Moana, Disney was seriously considering stepping back from these live-action remakes and was so close to throwing in the towel. And then this film came out, made a ton of money, and now they are full speed ahead with more Disney remakes. This movie actually undid the only bit of good that came out of Snow White, which was that it disheartened Disney to the concept of live-action remakes. And in one fell swoop, this movie reversed that. There is no movie that has made me as disgusted of its success as this film has. The same people that complain about Disney remakes but then went in droves to see this.
And now I have a wedgie.
Well, you have given Disney the motivation to continue. And when they release the next Tangled, Moana, and countless other terrible remakes of your favorite Disney movies, just remember,
You brought this on yourself.
and you better strap in because they are going to do a heck of a lot more. Another terrible thing about this abomination is that they are making a sequel and are hiring one of the original writers and directors to pen it. And my position on that is that if they are going to hire one of the original creators, then I would rather he came back to write a sequel to the animated movie, not a sequel to this piece of shit. I made a versus video delving into detail as to why the remake pales in comparison to the original movie, so check that out if you want to know my full thoughts. All those reasons and more is why Lilo and Stitch is the absolute worst movie of 2025. So, those are my worst movies of 2025. It's a shame that some of these movies even ended up on this list. We got no superheroes on my best of list this year, but we got one on my worst list. That's not good. We got The Electric State from the Russo brothers very high on the list, and to have another Jurassic Park film on the worst list? Jeez, what is happening to these franchises? Here's hoping we get better luck in 2026. In the meantime, that wraps up another year. And now it's your turn. In the comments below, let me know your worst movies of 2025, and I will be reading all of them. A big thanks to all of you for watching and following me for all this time. I really do consider you guys my second family, so it's great to know that you're all still here. And a big thanks and welcome to all my new patrons and YouTube members. In 2025, we also introduced a Discord server on Patreon where we all speak on video chat and have 2 watch parties a month. And I'm able to actually talk to all of you now. And that was a very welcome addition to the channel, and something I wish I did much sooner too. So a big thanks to those of you who kicked my butt into doing it. Thanks again for watching, everyone. I look forward to making more content for you in 2026, and I will see all of you very soon. Take care.